It's been almost 2.5 years since professional guardian Tracy Hudson was arrested, accused of using a power of attorney agreement to take $541,000 from a 92-year-old man under her care. She is currently out on bond awaiting trial.
And she's still walking the streets. She is still free to go. She has not been held accountable.
Investigators allege Hudson used her ill-gotten gains to make payments on a 4,800 square foot Riverview home, buy Bucks tickets, and go on shopping sprees.
That case that she was charged with is a power of attorney case, so totally different from our guardianship cases.
Judge Pam Campbell ordered the Pinellas County Inspector General's office to investigate all of Hudson's 45 guardianship cases and identify any concerns.
If there are any red flags that are brought to our attention, then we will address that at that point in time.
The IG's office identified criminal activity in 3 other cases, leading to 17 new felony charges last year, including some related to Robert Moore's guardianship.
Because she totally destroyed my family.
Ryan Moore says while acting as his dad's guardian, Hudson stole Moore's guns and kept the money.
So we do have 7 firearms that are unaccounted for.
I asked her about the guns, and she said all the guns had been stolen except for one, and it was in a police evidence room somewhere.
Let's go!
It was a tough lesson.
Getty Bacalna says his great-aunt Ganita Deersay was abused by a caregiver Hudson hired, then moved to an assisted living facility where she died alone from COVID-19. Hudson obtained a court order preventing Getty from seeing or talking to his great-aunt.
It just destroyed us.
After interviewing dozens of people reviewing bank records and real estate transactions, investigators drafted reports on 19 of 21 Hudson cases they reviewed.
Fortunately, we have somebody who is stay on top of this and digging into this, and we're glad to have that people doing their job.
According to this report, investigators collected and delivered 933 pieces of mail sent to former wards that were delivered to a P.O. box at this UPS store that Hudson abandoned. Hudson's criminal attorney Richard McKighton told us his client wasn't allowed to access her P.O. box after she was removed from her cases, leading to a mix-up in mail being forwarded to the ward's new guardians.
Well, if you have almost 1,000 pieces of mail that you haven't retrieved from your P.O. box, it says that you haven't been doing much.
I-Team investigator Adam Walzer uncovers how the daughter of a man in guardianship lost her home after speaking out about what she believed was her father's poor care. The same guardian who sued her for libel and won is currently awaiting trial for exploitation, perjury, and grand theft.
I got my 4 dogs in my car right now, and I don't even know where I'm going to sleep tonight.
The sign taped to the door, delivered by deputies and a locksmith, says Lisa Martino can't return to what has been her home for the past 8 years.
This is unbelievable that my home that I worked for, and I paid cash for it because I had worked so hard.
The new owner is Gainesville attorney John Hader, who bought the 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,900 square foot house at a court-ordered levy sale with a bid of $100,000.
He used judgment credit, so he didn't actually even dish out $100,000 at the bidding.
Zillow estimates the home's value at $480,000. That judgment credit came from Hader's client, disgraced former professional guardian Tracy Hudson, who is currently awaiting trial on 20 felony counts after being charged with stealing from elderly people under her care. Martino's troubles started when Hudson was appointed guardian of her father, Roland Martino, in 2017. The retired pharmacist was suffering from dementia.
When she became the guardian, within a month, she was already, my father had bruises on him, and he seemed like he was being drugged.
Martino repeatedly complained about her father's care, which led to the guardian obtaining a gag order and later a no-contact order, preventing Martino from communicating with her father and his guardian. So Martino filed complaints with agencies including DCF, the Department of Elder Affairs, and the Sheriff's Office, expressing concerns that Tracy wasn't making sure her father was properly cared for. Those complaints didn't result in any charges.
I mean, it's just so unfair. fear because all I was doing, I was a whistleblower to the corruption, and then I get punished.
Martino also left remarks on social media and reviews on websites referring to Hudson as a liar, exploiter, vulture, and witch.
I ended up getting a surprise lawsuit of a libel slander saying that the things I said were slanderous.
A judge issued a default judgment saying Martino failed to file a response or introduce any evidence. Martino says she did not receive notice about the hearing. The judge awarded the Guardian $160,000 in damages. 15 months later, Hudson was arrested after prosecutors say she stole more than $500,000 from another senior under her care. Last year, Hudson was indicted on additional charges involving 2 additional victims. The investigating agencies were the same ones Martino contacted about her concerns. As Hudson prepared for trial on the criminal charges, attorney Jan Garwood started foreclosure proceedings against Martino, adding an additional $80,000 for fees. Garwood argued Martino's house, which was deeded to a limited liability corporation composed of Martino and her 2 children, should be sold to satisfy the judgment.
There was nothing about the house because the house was under LLC, and so the LLC was not the one being sued.
But the judge disagreed. Martino spent thousands on attorneys and after running out of money represented herself, filing dozens of motions and multiple appeals.
Next up is Martino versus Salmon.
On January 25th, Martino argued to the Florida Court of Appeals that her home should be protected under Florida's Homestead Act.
And I have been living in this home consistently since March 2014. There's no other homestead. There's been no proof I've lived anywhere else.
Until sometime right around the levy, the property was either held in the name of the LLC or in the name of the appellant's daughter.
The day after that hearing, before the Court of Appeals ruled, attorney Jan Garwood bought the property after the judge in the original libel case signed an order allowing the sale to move forward. 8 days later, Martino was locked out of the home before she could arrange for movers.
So he's going to have a dumpster come and all my stuff is going to be thrown away.
The next day, attorney Jan Garwood came to the house and immediately called the sheriff's office, even though we were on a public sidewalk beside a county-owned road.
Could I be connected to dispatch, please?
When deputies didn't show up,
no comment, period.
Garwood moved his car to make way for the trash haulers, who cleared out and loaded up the contents of Martino's former home.
There goes my stuff.
What do you see? What else going in there?
That's all my tools. They took I had my generator.
Any idea where this is going?
No, I do not know. All I know is it belongs to me and it doesn't belong to them.
As Garwood looked on, he still didn't want to discuss the case.
Well, why don't you talk to us, counselor?
This is just really unbelievable that this can even happen in our country.
Martino is currently living in a hotel and has no idea where she's going to live next. She says she's exhausted all of her savings on litigation and doesn't even have enough money now to pay a deposit on an apartment.
We were a love story. My husband was the love of my life.
Becky and Herschel Harbor spent their lives caring for each other. When Herschel suffered a massive stroke, Becky brought him from his home in Atlanta to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville for treatment.
We were at the Mayo Clinic and we were sent down to Volusia. I was under the impression I was to be trained on a particular equipment for my husband.
While at a Volusia County medical facility, Herschel suffered a heart attack and his condition worsened.
And I removed my husband against medical advice, and we were to go back to the Mayo Clinic. I hired my own ambulance. At that point, we were not allowed to leave.
The hospital contacted DCF, which started guardianship proceedings and obtained a protective order, preventing Becky from seeing her husband.
We're unsuspecting. We're from out of town. We're seniors. I was a senior myself. I never dreamed anything like this could go on.
Had you ever heard of guardianship before this happened?
I had never heard of it, and I had taken care of 2 sets of grandparents and a 94-year-old mother and an 87-year-old mother-in-law.
Becky hired an attorney and spent more than $300,000 fighting to keep Herschel out of guardianship. Herschel died before he made it back home.
They actually kept my husband in the hospital a full 5 months. The burden was on me to get a hotel and pay expenses in your state.
Becky testified in Tallahassee last week against Florida's inclusion in the 46 State Uniform Guardianship Act, which creates a national system for enforcement of out-of-state guardianship orders. Supporters say the law would reduce expensive court battles over jurisdiction.
This will allow for us to go to the Georgia judge, say, hey, we filed and initiated guardianship here. They are a ward of the state of Florida. We want to protect them and bring them back.
Opponents say it will make it easier for predatory guardians and attorneys to exploit visitors from other states.
It's the Venus flytrap. It's getting people in Florida closing in, and that's it.
The risk to the vacationers who come and winter in Florida is extremely real once this is adopted.
Rick Black is founder of the Center for Estate Administration Reform, or CEAR. He says the law gives Florida courts power to come in and take the property of people under guardianship in other states and in other countries.
And they are continuing to promote this false narrative that this system works perfectly. It does for bar members. It does not for the public.
But we begin with a Pinellas County man who's fighting against his stepmother in a guardianship case over how to best care for his dad.
ABC Action News investigator Adam Walzer says the case involves questionable court documents, a new Maserati, and a costly legal battle that has dragged on for more than a year now.
I think he's what everyone should aspire to be. He cares about his family.
Wayne Beckford's smile is contagious. A Jamaican immigrant, Wayne became a radiology technician and raised his only child, Charles, as a single dad, supporting him through high school, college, and law school.
We didn't have much, but he was putting things aside so that he could take care of me.
Wayne has 3 loving sisters.
And we only have each other. Her parents are gone. We are everything to each other.
There is an army, a village Wayne has.
But his son and siblings say the court has ignored their pleas. Wayne suffered a major brain bleed in June of last year, leaving him unable to talk, walk, and perform other tasks of daily living, according to a doctor's report.
Everything is in place for Wayne to be declared essentially as an incapacitated man.
And he hasn't been.
And he has not been. And we're now talking about, since the process started October of 2020.
Pinellas County Probate Judge Pam Campbell ruled against the family's request to be Wayne's emergency temporary guardian, saying he was not endangered and putting his wife Donna in charge of his care. Charles testified in court Donna and his dad split up months before his illness, but Donna denied that, saying she only moved out of the house due to COVID concerns.
Did you go back to the house at all?
During COVID, during those months, no.
Donna and Wayne met online and married in 2003. Donna had multiple felony arrests before meeting Wayne, including battery of a law enforcement officer, which he said on her application to be Wayne's guardian happened 27 years ago.
Is that the only felony you've been arrested for?
No, there's another one. I think the charge is robbery.
That charge from 1991 would make Donna ineligible to be Wayne's legal guardian, according to this motion Charles's attorney filed. But Judge Campbell never ruled on it. Donna owns a licensed companion care company with more than 40 employees called Donna's Devoted Healthcare, which she started with Wayne.
She wanted him under the care of her home companion care company.
These are invoices from Donna's Devoted Healthcare charging $456 a day for Wayne's care.
It's this entity, this companion care organization that has taken hold of my brother.
And they're not taking care of him for free.
No, they're billing for it.
But Donna's attorney, Hamden Baskin, who declined an interview, said in this email, Wayne receives all therapy and caregiver support recommended. Added, Donna has and is paying for caregivers.
Everything that I'm billing for Wayne comes off of my taxes at the end of the year.
After Wayne was released from a rehab center, Charles and his aunts wanted him moved into a facility with intensive on-site therapy.
That time frame was crucial.
He's going to have more success at home, and I truly believe he's going to get better.
Is it the same person who sleeps at his house each night?
That's me. I sleep at the house with him each night.
But starting months before Wayne's illness, Donna was spending plenty of time here at a condo left to her by one of her former clients. And she wasn't spending all of her time alone.
Private investigator, I think over the course of 5 to 6 weeks, saw her at the condo. 25, somewhere around there, 25 days.
This report shows pictures of Donna's car at the condo.
Do you own a car?
I do.
A Maserati?
Yes.
This is video shot by a private investigator of Donna and a companion in her Maserati.
Are you still in a relationship with that person?
Yes.
Donna testified that in September 2020, she used money from Wayne's bank account for the Maserati down payment, but her name was not on any of his accounts.
Did you talk to Wayne about using the $2,000 from his account to pay your Maserati down payment?
I did not.
Well, Wayne didn't have the capacity to know the difference between a Fisher-Price toy and an actual car.
The legal fight between Charles and Donna started October 13th last year, when Charles petitioned to be his father's guardian.
Someone is in control of my dad's life. We're filing for guardianship to basically say that someone should come in under the guise of the court and protect him.
The next day, a lawyer who Donna called showed up with a 14-page power of attorney agreement, saying he represented Wayne and Wayne had capacity.
My brother did not call this lawyer.
He also brought a healthcare surrogate designation, a living will, and a notary and witness.
He didn't sign that. He couldn't read.
Nor could he sign. Have you seen the document?
These messy marks were submitted to the court as Wayne's initials.
And the signatures are all over the place. They're scribble.
During the guardianship hearing, that attorney testified Wayne, quote, couldn't speak, but he could nod yes or no, testifying he held a clipboard for Wayne, who, quote, had some difficulty getting right on the line.
On October 15th, 2020, do you believe Wayne had the mental capacity to understand a power of attorney and healthcare surrogate document?
Absolutely.
On October 16th, the very next day, you filed a petition to be appointed guardian. Do you recall that?
I think this is where we should bring Hamden in. This is some things that he was directed us.
That petition alleges under oath that Wayne is an incapacitated person. In his email response, Baskin said Donna asserts no guardianship is needed, but if one must be entered, that she should be appointed. The transcript says Judge Campbell reserved ruling on the validity of the documents and responded, it doesn't pass the smell test. The case has since gone through depositions, mediation, and multiple hearings. How much does this cost you?
I'd have to go through all the invoices, but an extreme amount of money.
More than 100 grand?
Yes.
Attorney Baskin blames that on Charles, who he says has issued unnecessary discovery designed to harass Donna or members of her staff and has run up fees beyond reason, funds which should have been used for Wayne's well-being. We went to Wayne's home in late October to try to talk to Donna. A Maserati was in the driveway, but no one answered the door. Why are you doing this?
Who wouldn't if they love their father?
If we're not fighting for money, then what are we fighting for? I guess love cannot be litigated in court. Caring cannot be litigated in court. So those aren't terms that they're used to.
5:30, federal lawmakers introducing a new bill called the FREE Act to protect Americans from abusive guardianships. I-Team investigator Adam Walser has been exposing guardianship abuse in the state of Florida for the past 8 years. And tonight, Adam has brand new details on how this new law would work and what it would do that's never been done before.
As rallying cries and social media posts calling for a judge to free Britney Spears from conservatorship grow louder, two members of Congress announced Tuesday they're taking action against guardianship and conservatorship abuse. In a virtual press conference, Democratic Representative Charlie Crist of St. Petersburg and Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina introduced the Freedom and Right to Emancipate from Exploitation, or FREE Act.
This is really not a right versus left issue. This is a right versus wrong issue.
The proposed law would allow people in guardianships and conservatorships to petition a court to replace private or professional guardians with public guardians paid by taxpayers who would have no financial incentives to exploit people under their care. Christ introduced another guardianship reform bill in late 2019 after seeing our reports on guardians accused of isolating, abusing, and financially exploiting seniors here in Florida.
After your great reporting, and thank you very much for that, the incidence of how often this is happening in Florida, it's very troubling.
But that legislation was stuck in committee as Congress turned its attention to COVID and the economic downturn. New attention on the Britney Spears case.
She wants us to hear her, you guys.
Is now opening the nation's eyes.
If it can happen to Britney Spears, it can happen to anyone in this country.
The timing is a big factor, Adam. It has brought so much more light to what probably millions of people experience across the United States every day with a conservatorship or a guardianship.
The new law would also appoint independent monitors in guardianship and conservatorship cases and would require states to file annual reports about guardianship and conservatorship in their courts. Congressman Chris says he believes that the bill will have strong bipartisan support and he expects it to be passed into law in a matter of months.
And tonight, Adam, once again, out in front of this story with the new ideas on the table today to fix the system and protect Florida seniors.
Over the course of the past 3 months, members of the Guardianship Improvement Task Force have met for a combined 30 hours to try to come up with new ways to better protect Floridians in court-ordered guardianships. And today, they released their final recommendations. In a sterile Tallahassee meeting room, people met in person and online Thursday for the final Florida Guardianship Improvement Task Force meeting, whose members include judges, clerks, lawyers, elected officials, and reform advocates. The task force has met 6 times across the state since July, when the first meeting was held in St. Petersburg.
The purpose of this is to make legislative recommendations that will be enacted and protect the wards.
The I-Team has reported for years how under the current system, guardians can isolate, abuse, and exploit people under their care. Victims of the broken system told task force members they've had enough.
In the first 6 months, she was billed over $250,000.
She was denied access to receive letters, telephone calls, mail, food delivery.
Let's stop shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic and deal with the issues.
Among the final recommendations, create uniformity in guardianship across counties, increase education of guardians, ease the process for people to get their rights restored, and create a statewide database showing how many cases each guardian has, information about each case, and whether they have ever been disciplined. The next step is to present those recommendations to lawmakers ahead of the 2022 legislative session. Members of the task force have agreed to testify at legislative committees during the coming months. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.